it appears that the $15 minimum wage is dead. It's dead. It turns out we have lost, joining all Republicans in killing the $15 minimum wage provision that was to be included in the must-pass coronavirus stimulus relief package. You had 8 Democrats that joined in killing Bernie Sanders' amendment to raise the wage for millions of Americans. In fact, those who voted with the Republicans against advancing Sanders' amendment were Senators Joe Manchin, expected, Kyrsten Sinema, Angus King, an independent from Maine, which is very interesting, Tom Carper, Chris Coons, John Tester, Jeanne, Shaheen, Maggie, Hassan. So you're going to see, of course, I think one reason why they voted against the wage, to raise the wage. But I want you to remember those names. I want you to remember the senators that killed our best opportunity to get a minimum wage passed without having to, kill the filibuster, which again won't actually happen. So, and this is why I say that it's the best, because this is putting it in a must-pass bill. So, must pass. I think it's pretty self-explanatory why I say it must pass, because you do not want to be the senator, unless you're a Republican. You don't want to be the Democratic senator, which destroys your party's ability to get a coronavirus stimulus package passed, right, and out to the American people. Right now, this is something that has over 70% support, 76% among Democrats, and 60% of Republicans want this coronavirus stimulus bill out. And so, if you're gonna crash it, well, then you're gonna have to face those people in your elections. So this is a must-pass bill, which means attaching something that is super popular. This is different than attaching like a poison pill to it to crash it. This is attaching something that, again, a majority of Americans want, a $15 minimum wage. So if you attach it to a must-pass bill, well, then, it must pass. But they took it out. They didn't do that. They decided to take it out. And so now this is frustrating, totally frustrating. So now, let's see. If you're okay, let me try to explain this better. Okay, again with the must pass, right? The fact that it is must pass means that you can use that to get enough pressure to do that. Now, what's unfortunate about the minimum wage is the Senate parliamentarian, completely unelected official with zero constitutional authority, they issued an advisory opinion saying that, that's a violation of budget reconciliation rules. So now that gave Manchin, Sinema, and the rest of these Democrats political cover, as well as Republicans, by the way, to tank this incredibly important popular amendment. What could we do? What could we do? The parliamentarian said that we couldn't pass it, that it got in the way of some of these obscure, arcane rules. Okay, that no one sitting at home right now struggling with 2 jobs is going to give a shit about. I mean, you ask your regular person, hey, did you know that the Senate parliamentarian decided that you didn't want a minimum wage, or you couldn't get a minimum wage? She decided unilaterally that you just couldn't get a minimum wage, a raise. That conversation would not go over well. Like, well, what is a Senate parliamentarian? What do they do? How do I vote for someone else? I'm dying here. Please just raise my wages. That's all people want. It's just to be able to work and survive. Okay. And so this is a problem, big problem. And so now what you could do, what Democrats could have done, is ignored the Senate parliamentarian. It's happened before, and that Senate parliamentarian is not someone who holds any sort of power at all. There is no power in that position. It is strictly an advisory role. So you could You could just bypass that person. If you want to, you could even fire that person like Republicans did when they tried to pass tax cuts for the rich. And guess what? They did pass those tax cuts for the rich after they fired the parliamentarian. They just don't care. Okay? So now, the other way that you could pass a wage in a non-must-pass bill is, well, you'd have to deal with the filibuster. Since Democrats only have, technically 51 votes, you've got a 50-50 split. You got the two independents, Bernie Sanders and normally Angus that tend to caucus with the Democrats and vote with the Democrats most of the time. Well, plus Vice President Kamala Harris, who has been on the record, by the way, calling for an increase of the minimum wage to $15 an hour. They could do the simple majority, right? But you can't do that if you don't do budget reconciliation, because you will face a Republican filibuster. Now, you could destroy the filibuster, and guess what? Guess how many votes you would need to do that? 51. You only need 51 votes to vote for the Senate rules to change and eliminate the filibuster, meaning that Republicans would no longer be able to be obstructionist. But as a consequence, you would need all the Democrats plus the two independents to side with you in destroying the filibuster, which of course is a non-starter as well. So what you have here is you have Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema that are saying, no, absolutely not. We are not going to end the filibuster. And so, unfortunately, that's the situation we're at. Not only will Democrats not, of course, go after the Republican Party, but they also won't go after the centrists in their party, the 8 Democrats that voted with Republicans to tank this amendment. The massive majority of Senate Democrats actually are in favor of this amendment, but 8 decided to side with Republicans, again, because they don't believe that you should get paid more. And so that's a problem. Okay. So now if you were mad that you have a government that does nothing, that you voted for Democrats and they decided to do nothing despite giving them a majority, then you can blame Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin, and there it is. I mean, you could also, of course, blame Republicans. All right. Yes, blame Republicans. But see, Republicans, we don't have any expectations for Republicans other than inflicting maximum cruelty on the American people, because that's what they do. That's why I'm not really angry at the Republicans. I mean, think about this, right? Getting mad at Republicans is kind of like getting mad at an orc for burning down your village. All right? Or getting mad at a Zerg horde for rushing your base in StarCraft. That's kind of what they do. Okay, you should expect this. Expect them. It's like getting mad at a zombie for eating your face. They were going to eat your face anyway. Why did you let them in? And so it's expected. Republicans are reactionaries. And guess what? If you're poor, if your name is not Walmart or Northrop Grumman, they hate you. They hate you. By the way, Ron Johnson, Republican Senator Ron Johnson, he decided that what he was going to do to start off this whole thing, this whole debate, all right, he was going to sit and read the bill as in its entirety to Congress to slow down the vote. He started it. He didn't even stay for the whole thing, by the way. What they had is they ended up rotating people out for 11 hours to read the entire 628-page bill. You know why? Because fuck you, that's why. That's why. All right. That's Republicans. All right. So they despise the American people. And so we shouldn't be surprised at Republicans. But for Democrats, the thing about the Democrats is that they voted for Democrats so that they could do good things. They could do better things, okay? Like raising wages, sending bigger stimulus checks, guaranteeing health care, pulling people out of poverty, making their lives generally materially better. All right. This is what people voted for Democrats for. OK, the Democrats, they're not really doing all that much in order to do those things. OK, we ended up getting smaller stimulus checks, $1,400 instead of $2,000, which was promised. Right. Which means effectively, and this is going to come up during the midterms, I can guarantee it. OK, that they ended up giving people less money in COVID stimulus relief than Donald Trump. And it's true. Donald Trump gave people $1,200 plus $600. And that's it. That's $1,800 versus Biden's $1,400. Okay. Well, and by the way, this is targeted towards less people. 17 million people will receive less in benefits now. And of course, that is based on, and I see the argument all over the targeting here. Well, if you made $80,000, in a year, then you don't need this check. Okay, but this is based on 2019 taxes, and if you're lucky enough, if you're quick enough to be able to file your 2020 taxes, all right. And so not everybody has been able to do so. It actually costs, that, and even though like. There are free programs, and I've talked about this on the show, right? It costs money to do your taxes. If you go through the, H&R Block, whatever, you can do your taxes on, for free online, or you can have other companies do it. There are ways for you to get your taxes done for free, but these are not easily accessible, and most people don't know about it. So, yeah, people that are unemployed, and by the way, unemployment is also taxed. Which, by the way, the Democrats did try to do something about that. There is an amendment that at least, waives the tax on the first $10,000 of unemployment benefits. But that's good. That is a positive thing. So I'm not going to spend the whole segment trashing everything the Dems said, but or have done. But there are things Democrats have done that are good, but this is not good. This is one of the bad things that they're doing. This is one of the things they didn't need to get rid of. They didn't need to pull out of the bill. They didn't need to follow the Byrd rule or whatever. They didn't need to go and listen to the parliamentarian. They were able to do this, and they decided not to. And they decided not to end the filibuster in order to get this through. So they have done very, very little. Okay, and that is the problem. Very little to try to pass this, which makes you think that it's not really something that's supported by a majority of Americans, is not really one of their priorities, despite them saying this. Okay, so again, you just have less going out to people than Trump, and that's really bad when you're trying to do re-election. Okay. And it's really bad that the narrative can be spun that Democrats actually did less than Trump and Republicans. That is really bad PR. That is really bad campaigning. And again, I don't want Republicans in power. But if they keep doing this and allowing Republicans to seize these narratives because they don't care about hypocrisy and will lie to your face repeatedly in order to get back into power, and then, of course, once again, not do anything or do the bare minimum, then that's going to be a problem. Okay, there's going to be a big problem. All right, anyway. Now, as far as bipartisanship with Republicans goes, again, Republicans voted against this 100%. Right. So all Senate Republicans are like, no, we're just going to take the COVID relief bill because we don't care. We want to destroy the Democratic Party so that we get back into power and we can do more tax cuts for the rich. Right. And so the Democrats that try to do, to reach out for bipartisanship, you can't have that with, a political party that despises you and only exists to be reactionary to anything that you do. And that's what they're doing. Okay. In reality, the real bipartisanship appears to be between fellow Democrats, where you have the corporate Democrats or the centrist Democrats, the so-called mushy moderates, which are anything but, and the progressive wing. Okay. And it appears the so-called moderates always seem to win these standoffs. Gee, I wonder why. I mean, it only takes one senator, I guess, to gum up the works. And understand that the Senate is basically there to obstruct anything the House has done. Now, in a statement following Friday's votes, here you have Senate Budget Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders. Here's what he said. At a time when millions of people are working for starvation wages, when the minimum wage of $7.25 an hour has not been raised by Congress since 2007. 2007. When the President of the United States and the House of Representatives support it, it is absolutely imperative the Senate approve an increase in the minimum wage to $15 an hour. If any senator believes it's the last time they will cast a vote on whether or not to give a raise to 32 million Americans, they are sorely mistaken. We're going to keep bringing it up, and we're going to get it done because it's what the American people demand and need. We're going to keep bringing it up. Again, the whole problem here is that must-pass bills are the best chance of being able to do that. Otherwise, you're going to get filibustered by Republicans, okay? Unless Manchin and Sinema are somehow bullied into going with the majority, as well as these other 6 senators. Again, they are the minority that has stopped the majority of Democrats from getting a win on this and following through their campaign promises, which is going to be very bad for their election chances, okay? Now, again, if you want that to happen, you've got to, they have to have pressure put on them. Biden refused to do that. Vice President Harris refused to do that. And so they're not going to do that at all. In fact, after the White House made clear that Vice President Harris would not be willing to exercise her authority to override the parliamentarian's advice, Democrats removed the $15 minimum wage provision from their version of the bill. Bernie Sanders, in response to that, said, because of an unfortunate and misguided decision by the parliamentarian, this reconciliation bill does not include an increase in the minimum wage to $15 an hour. In my view, an unelected staffer in the Senate should not be in charge of determining whether 32 million million workers in America deserve a raise. Now, I love this idea from John Fetterman. This is the Pennsylvania lieutenant governor who is on point. Okay, when he said this in a statement, quote, every single senator who voted against $15 minimum wage today should be forced to live on $7.25 an hour so they can demonstrate to all of us how it's possible. Because it's not. While these senators sit comfortably in Washington making $174,000 a year, millions of Americans are struggling every day to get by, and they cannot wait any longer. They need a living wage now. All work has dignity, and all paychecks must too. If the Senate were to pass a $15 minimum wage, 24 million would see their wages rise. Instead, 58 deeply out-of-touch senators decided to turn their backs on working people, and here's why. And that reason, of course, is the donors. Donors to both parties do not want higher wages for workers. Okay. These people are corrupt, out of touch, wholly against all the evidence that shows that raising the wages to $15 an hour would actually end up being a huge benefit to the economy and to the country at large. Overall. Not to say that there are downsides, but the upsides overwhelmingly show that $15 minimum wage is just better. But let me show you what Ken Klippenstein of The Intercept pointed out, and that is the net worth of the 8 Democrats who voted this down. Okay, quote: "This is Chris Coons, $10.13 million. That's how much they're worth. Angus King, $9.49 million. Joe Manchin, $7.62 million. Tom Carper's $5.73 million. Jeanne Shaheen, $3.82 million. John Tester, $3.67 million. Maggie Hassan, $3.47 million. And Kyrsten Sinema, we don't know. The thing about Kyrsten Sinema is she used to be, at least she had run as a progressive. She used to be progressive. What happened? Well, apparently running to the center, well, It just was more lucrative. Understandable with all those corporate donations. These Democrats are super wealthy and out of touch as a result, okay? And as a result, should be primaried and removed for not serving their constituents. Hell, maybe then they can join the party that they actually belong to, the Republican Party. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.